Awesome. Hopefully everyone can hear me. Thanks for having me here, Minglan. I can quickly introduce myself. I'm Advitya. You guys might have heard from me yesterday in the opening ceremony keynote. I am currently a ML engineer at Microsoft. So just to kind of give you a background, I went to UC San Diego, majored in data science. I was actually the sort of like the second ever cohort of data science majors at UC San Diego because it was a new major that got introduced when I was a freshman in college. I graduated from there 5 years back, and since then I've been with Microsoft as a ML engineer, worked with a whole variety of orgs, initially in a rotation program and then in different orgs across Azure and Windows, working on a bunch of machine learning capabilities, moving them to production, both internal and external. So that's been a lot of fun for me. And I'm guessing that this is like a career advising event that I got looped into. So I really would like all of you in the audience or all of you participants to kind of utilize this time. I'm happy to answer any questions, either from my experience or really address any topics that are top of mind for you. Yeah. Right. Yeah, thanks for raising this question, Minglan, because I am guessing that a lot of participants here might be in their high school, preparing for college. And let's say one of the major practical experiences that I also got was working in a research lab. Let me answer this in two parts. The first one is how did I get into a lab at UCSD? And second, like what would I encourage other people to do, let's say as they're entering college and stuff, to potentially get those research opportunities early on. So in my case, I got connected with a professor at UC San Diego who was a friend of a brother-in-law of mine. They had went to college together. And so that way, even before I came to UCSC, I had kind of consulted with them in terms of their insights around like how to pick my best fit college. And then I came to UCSC where they were a professor. And then initially I did not have any data science experience. So as just like I said yesterday, y'all are already way ahead of the curve than I was because I wrote my first line of code ever after I graduated high school. So in freshman year, I was working with a startup, trying to accumulate some experience because I guess that hey, some amount of coding experience might be required to get into a lab. And their work seemed super technical to me when I went to their website. So in sophomore year, turns out there was a lab tour that was organized specifically for their lab. So I went to that lab tour. I introduced myself to that professor in person saying that, hey, I had emailed you and we have this kind of connection through my brother-in-law who you know. And then I basically just handed him my resume saying that, hey, in my freshman year, I worked on some of these things. And then, yeah, he just said that, yeah, let's schedule like a one-on-one, like a 30-minute thing. It went up to like 1.5 hours. A lot of it was about him talking about his research area and things. And then that's just how I got absorbed into that lab. And so I continued kind of working in that lab for like the next 2.5 years during college, just kind of volunteering for him and a bunch of those PhD students, running research experiments, adding some features on certain capabilities. And that was actually also a major reason why I got my current job today, because that professor had great academic ties with like research labs at Microsoft. And that is how I was able to enter the interviewing process. So working in that lab at UCSD, that quite frankly sort of changed the game for me in terms of the starting of my professional life. And so the things that I would recommend really everyone to follow, whether in high school emailing professors or PhD students or during college, is Yes, definitely identify the kinds of labs you're interested in. It is a numbers game as well, so reach out to both professors and PhD students. It is more likely for PhD students to respond to your emails because professors are typically busier. At the same time, one thing you really want to realize is professors love talking about their research and they love talking about themselves. So whenever you get any sort of time with a professor, online or virtual, just like have them talk about their research problem, even if you don't fully understand it, and just kind of have like prompting questions that, continue that conversation with them kind of talking about their work. And just that should display like a good amount of passion and interest for you. I would also recommend those outreach emails to be like short, crisp, targeted, and also mentioning something that's kind of more addressing sort of like what they work on and how that might be relevant with some of your experiences in the past, if they are. Otherwise, you can just say that you're just very interested to learn more about it. Mhm. Yeah, I can go through the chat one after the other. So, can you explain more about AI ML and your day-to-day at Microsoft? Yeah, of course. So, I have kind of had an experience working in a whole variety of orgs across Microsoft. So, for the first 2 years, I was in a machine learning rotational program where I worked for 4 orgs for 6 months each across the company on different ML projects. And there, I got to work on like projects from AI for improving IT operations to machine learning systems research to even responsible AI tooling. And my day-to-day kind of really varied with all these different kinds of projects. When I was pursuing research, a lot of it was about experimentation, unlocking new tooling, new experiences, and really focusing on some conference deadlines that we had. When I worked on AI for accelerating IT operations, a lot of that was prototyping with some amount of data that we had, trying to prove POCs, and then trying to build like entire architectures or systems from scratch that we can serve to other internal customers to accelerating like their IT operations and how they fix their software and things. When it came to responsible AI tooling, that work was very external facing. And so we had like some really strict deadlines around major Microsoft conferences where we would implement and ship features, and those would get a lot of external visibility. And so landing those releases and kind of looking at senior leadership kind of talking about or announcing those new features in those major conferences featured on YouTube and like all kinds of Microsoft documentation and things and media coverage, that was also very, very interesting. I continued working on responsible AI and then LLM evaluation tooling. So for like 1.5 years, I worked on like very external facing things. More recently, I had implemented Azure OpenAI evaluations on Microsoft Foundry, which is a cloud platform for building custom Gen AI applications. So yeah, that was also like lots of like strict deadlines, things to meet, very external facing, very shiny in that sense. So that was nice. And then I moved to Windows, where I'm working on a bunch of internal tooling to accelerate how Windows does their software updates, right? So that's a lot of internal work, but just the size and scale of Windows is astounding, right? It's like it has like the largest Git repository on the planet, multiple decades old project, probably one of the most used pieces of software on the planet even today. So my day-to-day has kind of like varied in all of these different work setups. Yeah. Yeah, hopefully that helps in terms of a perspective on how the day-to-day varies depending on the different kinds of projects that you're working on. I can probably move forward in the chat. So this career-based question, out of curiosity, which college were you in UCSD? And what is one piece of advice you'd give for an incoming UCSD student? Oh, awesome. Yeah, so yeah, sounds like you definitely know a bit more about UCSD. So UCSD, for context, has a residential college system, kind of similar to universities like Oxford, Cambridge, and like a few others in the UK that have these residential colleges, which are sort of these sub-communities within a college. So I was in Mirror College, and one piece of advice you'd give for an incoming UCSD student. Okay, so one piece of advice would be attend as many events as you possibly can, Matthew. So as soon as you enter college, like you will be bombarded with events during like orientation week and week zero, and then all these kinds of new student orgs that will crop up near the library walk, asking you to, come to their like initial like information events and stuff like that. Try to attend as many events as you possibly can. Use Google Calendar to basically schedule all of those events that you want to go to. And these can be all kinds of events, professional and social. It'll help you make new friends. It'll help you learn how to talk effectively with people or strangers, build new connections and new friendships. And also professionally, that can also really help you get this early insight into what companies are looking for today, what their hiring practices look like today. So yeah, just my one blanket piece of advice is attend as many events as you possibly can, and interact with all kinds of people, students, professors, hiring managers, recruiters, etc. And that will kind of really give you a holistic picture of the landscape that you're dealing with in college, and how you can kind of most effectively kind of utilize the best practices that you get to learn from each of those places. Yeah. That is what I try to like do like a lot during college, and I was very glad about it in terms of the benefits that I got from that. Yeah, Tanner asks, is it possible to build a successful career without attending a good college or university? And is it able to build possible to build a career without college or university? Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, let me try to break this down, Hammer. That's an interesting question. So I do know a few people, let's say working in these kinds of large tech companies, who have been able to enter without a bachelor's degree, technically. Either they only went to community college, or let's say they had to drop out for personal reasons. And somehow the kinds of connections that they tapped into in those large tech companies allowed them to kind of override or supersede that technical requirement that most companies might still tend to have, that, hey, you want to have a 4-year bachelor's degree sort of thing. I also know a whole lot of people whose bachelor's degrees were just not in computer science. They were in like political science or history, arts, psychology, things like that. And so the major, I would almost say that like isn't really all that relevant as long as you have the technical skills to do that job, right? If you're able to even learn the technical skills outside of work, then it doesn't really matter what you majored in, because your practical experience is what's going to occupy most of the real estate on your resume. And so that's what's actually going to matter. But to address your specific question on, hey, is it possible to build a career without attending a good college or university? So in terms of a good college or university, absolutely. Like I've heard, let's say people going to like local colleges, people are from different socioeconomic backgrounds as well, but they're able to, let's say, build a lot of practical experience outside of work, network with a lot of people, and that way they're able to create opportunities for themselves and improve their odds. So even, let's say, the quality of college, as long as you have good practical experience to showcase, and you're able to demonstrate that experience and that interest to hiring managers and recruiters in different kinds of networking events, career fairs, even your college brand name may not really matter all that much. Like you can kind of get over that. The only level of glass ceiling that I would probably mention here is oftentimes it may be still a requirement for a lot of large tech companies to still have a 4-year bachelor's degree. Like one of my closest friends had, let's say, applied to Microsoft after graduating from community college. But then Microsoft told them, hey, like we have this requirement. You need to have a bachelor's degree in order to be eligible to apply. So just for that reason, then they just decided to, like continue, kind of like continue with the remaining 2 years to actually get a bachelor's degree to be eligible for it. So it's mostly just an eligibility criteria. Most of what really matters is your practical experience, how you brand yourself online on LinkedIn and such, how do you come across to recruiters and hiring managers, and how you really attend the most amount of events possible and make the most of those opportunities and continue with your outreach and hustling, and try to get some of those interviews. Yeah, I have a question from other group. What time should you be contacting these professors? I heard depending on the time they may reject you, the spots already being filled up. Yeah, interesting question. I love how tactical this question is. So, and the reason I love how tactical this question is when I would attend a lot of events in college, right? A lot of insights that I would get during college were very strategic or tend to be very strategic. So extracting tactical insights instead of just like strategic high level insights, because like as a college kid, I wanted answers. I just wanted something that I could start with. Extracting tactical insights from a whole bunch of strategic insights shared was a task for me. I would get tactical insights, but not always or not in all events. So finding those out were very important. So yeah, in terms of when you should be contacting these professors, I think starting of a quarter or starting of a semester is probably the most one of the best times to contact them in the sense of they might have already just like finalized their semester planning or their quarter planning in terms of their research, and so they might have an idea of how many people they're looking for. An even better option might be to contact them even earlier ahead of time before the academic year starts. So after you guys get into your respective colleges and you have a summer kind of right before your college starts, it would be awesome if you're able to start this groundwork ahead of time, contacting those professors that you're an incoming student. You would love to learn about their work, potentially hop on a call, and also get their insights on what kinds of technical skills you want to already start learning so that you're better prepared for when you come to college or if you want to join their research lab ahead of time. So that's very helpful. Aside from that, just on professors' websites, you should be able to see if they're looking for oftentimes if they're looking for like volunteers or not. If they're not looking for any volunteers, they'll make that clear. Some professors who are very famous also have an entire page just dedicated to, hey, if you want to join this lab, what do you have to do, right? Where do you have to send your resume? What do you have to mention in your email? Things like that. So some professors have like very stringent requirements, so follow that. And let's say, if they're not looking for people, they'll mention that on their website. If they don't mention anything, that, hey, it really still doesn't hurt to send them an email. And you can also correspondingly email the graduate students, the PhD students of that lab as well, who might be more likely to respond to you or even like route your request to that professor in case that professor did not directly respond to you yet. So yeah, try to contact as early as possible, ideally even before the starting of a semester or a quarter. And that way the professor can potentially keep you in mind and you can start having those conversations early. I don't know how many professors work on the weekend, probably a lot of those do. But yeah, in terms of like specific time of the day, it's hard for me to say. But yeah, I would try to contact ASAP. Yeah, I see this question from Nisha. How important are internships compared to personal projects? I would probably say internships is the most important part of your academic experience. The only thing that potentially even comes second is research projects. So back in my college, over 4 years, I did 4 internships, worked with like 2 research labs, a startup. I had 0 personal projects. Like I never did a personal project. Here's my hot take about personal projects. Sure, you get some experience from them, you can talk about it very passionately, but it's very hard for personal projects, I feel, to distinguish yourself from the rest of the crowd. Picture that you're in a career fair, okay, and you're standing in the line at a booth of a company, right? There are, let's say, 50 people ahead of, like 25 people ahead of you, 25 people like behind you in a line. How do you distinguish out of all those 50 people, most of whom have done different kinds of personal projects? They're all very passionate about talking about their personal projects. How do you distinguish yourself from the rest of the crowd? And that is where these practical experiences really come in, especially in terms of internships that, hey, some company has trusted you with their data science, AI, CS work, or some research projects, which let's say might have great academic or industry impact with really well thought out problems that professors kind of come up with. And so sure, you might think about it as a chicken or egg problem, like, right? How do you start? If you don't have any personal projects, how do you really start on opportunities? And the thing that worked really well for me, again, was attending a lot of events, knowing a lot of people, and networking my way through. The first opportunity I ever got was working for a startup. The reason was it was volunteering for this like student-run startup, and I knew this college friend of mine who was the first person aside from the founder who kind of like joined to work on that student-run initiative. And so because I knew that friend of mine just connected me to that founder. And that is how I was able to get that interview with that founder to then work for that startup. And I got so many great practical experiences from that startup, not only from the perspective of learning concepts that would be taught in junior year in classes, and I just learned that in freshman year, but that gave me like such a whole variety of practical experiences that like I felt no personal project can really match sort of me working in a team and collaborating with other people, which is the essence of working. And dealing with those practical experiences, which is a lot more superior than personal projects. So absolutely focus on internships and research projects. One of the great ways to start can be looking at startup incubators in colleges. A lot of colleges have startup incubators where there are existing startups, existing students working on those, and they provide some amount of like a little seed funding or even like a makerspace to work there or to interact with other startups. So volunteering for them could be a really great way to kickstart your projects, and also kind of have that drive and motivation and accountability towards that, because it can be hard to keep yourself motivated just doing a personal project by yourself. So yeah, working with a startup also shows that you're able to work in a team, handle conflicts and disagreements, and it'll teach you like not just build your network, but teach you a whole variety of life skills. Going down into chat. Yeah, Tanner asks another question. How can you effectively network with people who are above you on the career ladder? I love this question. For example, with successful entrepreneurs and you're just an aspiring student. The way I dealt with it is, so one, I started with in-person events, right? It's a lot easier to kind of talk to people in person. There's body language and tonality, and you're directly able to look into people's eyes, so it builds trust at a psychological level. So I started with in-person events. I spoke to a whole bunch of upperclassmen, professors, recruiters, hiring managers, other guests that would come to UCSD to talk. And first, I wanted to define what effective networking meant for me. What it meant for me was I should be able to like ask them questions that are top of mind for me. I should be able to add them to LinkedIn so that they know that I exist and they remember me and we stay connected, so that if I ever want any kind of guidance in the future related to internship search, related to getting referrals, I should be able to contact them and do that, in the sense that they should have like a good first impression of me, and they should be able to remember me as like this passionate college kid who's really interested in learning, right? I would really not worry about putting like a power dynamic between you and them, right? Just be honest with your reality. Your freshman year of college is basically the best time for you to go up to someone above you and say, hey, I do not know anything. Please teach me everything that you know. It is not only reasonable, it is expected and even desired for you to admit your reality, saying that, hey, I just graduated out of high school. I have no prior experience. I have no prior credibility in this industry. I really want to learn. Can you please teach me what you know? Can you please teach me on these subtopics? And again, yeah, people also love talking about themselves. It's also a refreshing feeling when people are able to help others. Like, let's say even I am able to provide some of my perspectives to you guys. And so, yeah, just kind of leading with authenticity and intention about where you're at and where you want to get to, right? That can build a lot of trust with different kinds of people that you can talk to. You can build different mentors in the process, and always make sure you get their contact, either an email or a LinkedIn. Make your LinkedIn accounts ahead of time, you guys. Start during freshman year, start connecting with people, start populating your experience over there. And that'll already show a lot of great initiative from your side that you really want to like utilize their insights and work with advocates. Yeah, I see another question from Matthew. What would you say is the best thing for high school students to work on during summer break? I see. For instance, should we be looking for regular part-time jobs, working on personal projects, or stuffing through summer school? Awesome question. So I can talk about my experience first, and then I can try to pose some ideas. So I mostly spent my summer break, I think, having a lot of fun. We At that time, like we also went abroad to like vacation for a week. And yeah, it was a really fun time because like there were basically just no academic no academic expectations either. But the one thing that I did in my case, and by the way, this will not apply to you guys because y'all are much ahead of the curve in terms of your programming knowledge and all that. I never knew how to write a line of code, so I just wanted to learn programming. So I just went to this online course called CS50, Introduction to Computer Science. It's taught by this really famous Harvard professor, and I just went to CS50. I didn't even complete the course. I just learned about basic C programming and Python programming. That was it. And I just wanted to get a feel for like what coding is like. What is this actually? And can I try to code up some like really basic applications like a calculator or something? Even those really basic data structures like a Python list or an array were actually like foreign or very advanced for me. So just like very basic level of programming that I had learned during summer school. So yeah, I definitely did not utilize it at that level either. Just learned very basic programming and tried to contacting one professor about choosing UCSD, but that was really it. And so now to address this in your context, should we be looking for regular part-time jobs, working on personal projects, or suffering through summer school? Um, I would try to lay the groundwork for practical experience. Now, I don't know what you mean by regular part-time jobs, but my personal bias is, unless you have different socioeconomic circumstances, I would not recommend folks to take up non-technical jobs in the sense that I would really want, like, and I'm a little opinionated about it. I would really want people to utilize their time the best they can in terms of building actual technical skills, right? So rather than working on the side in a non-technical role, I would rather look for, hey, can you volunteer at a startup? Maybe there's a startup generator in the college that you're going to, and maybe they're okay having someone kind of volunteer for them virtually for summer and then kind of come in person when you join college, right? So try to really look for practical experiences, volunteering for startups, potentially volunteering for research labs. If you feel there are software frameworks that you want to learn, this is also a great time to carve out some time for learning that way. Sure, you can also work on personal projects, even though I have the hot take of personal projects may not help you distinguish yourself as much. But hey, if there's something that you're really passionate about, summer is a great time to do that, right? And if you're still going to summer school, I would be very intentional about what you're willing to get out of that summer school. Whether those are actual classes, let's say in community colleges or something, that can help you skip a couple classes or get some college credits when you guys enter college. Then that could be a decent use of your time if you're able to do some of those introductory classes and just, skip out of them. And yeah, that can help you, whatever, graduate early, take other more advanced classes, things like that. So yeah, try to explore these options. But my topmost sort of priority that I would say to you would be to prioritize practical experiences, either volunteering for a startup or a research lab, or contacting those professors ahead of time that you want to, let's say, work on some of these projects, or trying to use classes to skip a few introductory classes in college, things like that. But also make sure that you also try to like relax and also have some fun, because this would be one of the only times when like you don't have any academic responsibilities whatsoever. So definitely make good use of that and spend time with your family as well. Yeah, I see a question from Nisha. How valuable has a master's degree been in your field compared to real world experience? I love this question. The reason is this was a pretty top of mind topic for when I was back in college. So like I mentioned before, I was part of like the second ever cohort graduating class of data science majors at UCSD. It was a new major that came in when I was a freshman. And at that time, the notion was, hey, if you want a data science or an AI machine learning job, you need to have a master's degree. I was so arrogant about it that I refused to believe that. I was like, hey, a data science master's is 2 years. A data science undergrad is 4 years. I'm super specializing in data science at the undergraduate level itself. I do not see why I need a master's degree if I'm able to demonstrate like a similar level of proficiency in technical skills and stuff like that. And so a lot of people around me would kind of also propagate this notion of, hey, you need a master's degree, or all these positions kind of mention masters in their requirements and such. And so the way that I went about it is I tried to emphasize so much on practical experiences, working for a startup, working for a research lab. Quite honestly, I was even able to use my dad's connections in my home country, India, and I was able to get my first 2 internships in large tech companies in India as a data science intern, so that I'm able to also demonstrate that experience and that credibility of, hey, these really large companies in the finance and consulting domain have trusted me with their data science work at this undergraduate level already. So like, if they can trust me, I think you can trust me as well, sort of thing. And so that way, I continued networking to also get internships in the US. And I was able to actually get a master's level internship, data science internship opportunity at the undergraduate level by basically networking with people. And they thought that my profile was pretty good for an undergraduate, to the point where they were able to grant me an exception to enter the interviewing process. That completely not just blew my mind, it kind of opened my mind to this new notion of, hey, these master's requirements in these positions don't need to be hard requirements. They can be soft requirements. If you're able to show that level of experience and interest, and experience working on like practical skills and a few internships, research projects, whatever, you can potentially supersede this requirement. So much so that after they hired me, they actually modified their job requisition to then also mention that, hey, we're now also accepting bachelors, because, hey, if you can prove that bachelors can also do the job, that kind of really opened up their mindset as well in terms of accepting the undergrad pool. And this did not happen with me once. This happened with me multiple times. Once for an internship that I got, and then a couple times for the full-time offers that I had also gotten. I got this full-time offer, machine learning engineer position at this autonomous vehicle company. And they also only mentioned masters in their application. So typically, I would not directly apply for applications for jobs that just said masters. I would apply for jobs that would say undergrad, and then when I would try to get referrals for those, I would tell them, hey, like my specialization is in data science, so I'm open to opportunities, but I would love to do like data science projects in my internship. So I applied for the bachelor role. But then after they looked for my resume, some recruiters were actually able to tell me, hey, like this other position, data science, could be a better fit for you. I would respond to them by saying, hey, but this only says that this says that a master's is required. They're like, that's fine. We can make an exception for you. It's not a hard requirement. You should apply for this. And that way, I got a job offer from there. Even the rotation program that I joined at Microsoft was basically dominated by MS and PhD graduates. I was one of only 2 engineers that actually had an undergraduate degree, and we had entered that program. So in this way, I was able to see that we are able to unlock master's level opportunities at the undergraduate level if you already have that level of specialized experience and sort of like a decent track record of some internships, research labs, things like that. And so because I'd already gotten that sort of a job at the undergraduate level, in my particular case, there really was no career addition that I could foresee with a master's. Things are moving so fast in AI now that even educational institutions are taking time to catch up. And so really the most latest stuff that I'm learning, which has practical impact, is actually directly in my job in the industry. If you guys are doing a generic CS degree, then perhaps it might be valuable to do a master's, or it might be valuable to super specialize in your master's, like data science in the medical domain, for example, or financial engineering, which kind of intersects like finance and data science and econometrics, those sorts of things, right? So those are places where if you want to super specialize in something or go into like these very specific finance, medical, etc. fields and work on their data science problems, that is when a master's degree can potentially be valuable. From an international student's perspective, a lot of international students also go to the US or Canada for their master's degree because it's also a way for them to kind of get educated in that country and potentially get initial jobs and things. Yeah, so Minglan asks, what do you think is the roadmap to becoming a machine learning engineer? Which skills or knowledge should be equipped with? Yeah, so like I mentioned yesterday in my opening keynote, software frameworks are changing really fast, right? The tech stack that you have today will likely not be the tech stack when you guys graduate from college, based on how things are going on right now. In terms of the roadmap, I would say it's very similar to what I mentioned about grabbing opportunities in college. Volunteer for a startup that has some kind of data science AI work. Try to get maybe starting out, try to get some research, try to volunteer at research labs that are dealing with research problems in this domain. That way, you can also tap into the network of professors who have good industry ties, and they can actually also help you get internships. I had gotten one internship through the professor that I was working with. And that way, as soon as you start having, let's say, like one internship or two internships, right? In your, let's say, even freshman, sophomore year, where you have done some kind of data science AI work, that already helps you start building your credibility that, hey, this professional organization is trusting you with their data science work, right? And that way, you're able to kind of organically build your experience and credibility from there. Now, in terms of skills or knowledge, as soon as you, let's say, get to volunteer for that research lab or startup, you can get to learn a lot of things kind of like on the job sort of thing. So that can be very helpful. But even aside from that, I would look at the curriculum of your college. Let's say if they have a data science major, what kinds of things they're teaching initially. Sure, I can talk about my coursework where like I knew that at that time, hey, you need to learn NumPy and Pandas and scikit-learn and these kinds of basic modules. That might still apply today. But then today, because, well, I went to college in the pre-LLM phase, it's quite likely that now for you guys today, y'all might have an increased emphasis on basically like gradually using LLMs or learning about them, things like that, right? So try to look at the academic curriculum or coursework, or try to look at, also try learning on the job with startups, research labs. If you already start applying for internships, those job requisitions also mention the different skills that they might be looking for. And so that can also kind of gradually motivate what kinds of things you want to learn about. When I had initially started, even before working for that startup, I had taken this online course at this website called datacamp.com, which has a lot of data science centric courses. And that was just for me to learn like programming from a data science perspective. Like, okay, like how do I use NumPy, Pandas, scikit-learn, matplotlib, things like that. And so that helped me build like some initial experience that I could talk about when I was interviewing for that student-run startup. That I do have some coding experience and some experience working with data and manipulating data. And then things like after I got those opportunities, I was able to then organically get my learnings within those opportunities in terms of like whatever skills and things like they had needed me to learn to perform in those roles. Yeah, I see a question from Daniel. I heard that future coding positions are transitioning to project managers, and commanders of a suite of AI agents, and they're no longer line-by-line coders. So with this in mind, how important is Leetcode? Awesome question, Daniel. I was literally chatting about this in the last podcast that I had, like I think a month back or something. I think it's yet to be uploaded. But yeah, I kind of also felt like even as an engineer, a lot of my job kind of became like, how do I manage these different coding agents to be more productive, to output more features and things like that. And so with this in mind, how important is Leetcode? So it's still going to be important because not only might companies require it in their interviewing process, they actually want to see how your algorithmic thinking is, right? it's very easy to prompt a coding agent to output code. It's more difficult to actually fully trace that code manually and understand how it's working and actually be able to like understand where its imperfections and things are. Like I mentioned in yesterday's keynote, coding agents are great to produce code going from 0 to 1, right? Natural language to an entire app. They're not great for production grade code. A lot of my day-to-day job where I have to write a lot of production grade code not just involves using AI to output a lot of capabilities, but I also have to very closely review their code. And sometimes I feel like, hey, if a certain change can be made in 1 line of code, why is the AI using 10 lines of code to make that same change? Sure, it's still performant, but that's just more code to maintain. And if I'm just writing code that is not of like good production quality, not only is it more susceptible to bugs later down the line, bug fixes will also be more difficult if I don't have like a good enough understanding of the code that I'm committing ultimately. And so because of that, like prompting a language is easy, but then what do you prompt is sort of the main thing, or how do you prompt it and how do you understand the results? I remember this meme back in the pre-LLM phase when people were using Stack Overflow for things, where this one person basically mentioned, hey, knowing how to copy code from Stack Overflow is like trivially easy. But what is actually valuable is knowing what code to copy. So similarly in coding agents, they might be able to, let's say, make some feature working for you, but knowing what good quality code actually looks like, knowing your product requirements, and knowing how do you build something that is resilient towards future changes. Those kinds of skills are very essential. And so the way that Leetcode goes into this is developing algorithmic thinking of different data structures and knowing how to optimize things. It's possible sometimes the coding agent may not write things in an optimal way. You might be even able to improve the time and space complexities in certain cases of the code that is outputted by AI. And so, yeah, this is sort of going to be a foundational way in which companies are going to judge or assess whether you actually have that level of like systematic algorithmic thinking or not as an engineer. And they also want to see how you use AI in those interviews to perform certain coding tasks. A lot of the interviews are getting modified right now, where they're not just pure Leetcode interviews. You might be given access to a code base, you might need to debug something, and you actually would also have access to like an AI editor to use it. And they actually want to see how you use AI. Is your prompt just as basic as, hey, solve this problem? Or are you just copy pasting the prompt that they gave you to just have the AI solve this problem? Or if you're trying to go deeper in terms of the mental framework that you have or the architecture plan that you have to implement something, you're feeding that plan to the agent, you're having them implement that plan for you, and then you're actually checking those outputs before you decide to just paste those in your coding editor. Right? Those kinds of things and how you're prompting AI and how you understanding and interpreting the results to actually solve your specific case in an optimal way is what's going to be judged. So Leetcode is still going to be very foundational towards developing that mind muscle and that algorithmic thinking of how to think as an engineer and how to kind of use AI and to know where the bounds or limitations of AI are so that you as a human can step in and go the extra mile in terms of actually satisfying things at an optimum level. Yeah, I see the question. With how quickly AI is developing, how do you think the role of data scientists and AI engineers will change over the next 5 to 10 years? I have no idea, Nisha. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not going to claim that I have the answers to all of these questions. We're hardly like trying to predict what's going to happen in the next 1 to 2 years. Our tech stack is changing like literally every 6 months at this point, right? Every 6 months to a year, we have new software patterns, new ways of doing things that we are also learning on the job and looking at what applications look like. Over the next 1 to 2 years, we're trying to think of different design paradigms in terms of how do we improve performance and capabilities of the agents that we might be building internally. we have no idea what's going to happen within the next 5 to 10 years. The only resemblance of what I feel might be happening is AI potentially getting knowledgeable about the physical world as well, not just the digital world. So a lot of these AI experts like Jan LeCun and others have kind of said that, hey, LLMs inherently have limitations, that they're just next token predictors. They may not really truly have any knowledge about our physical world. And so there's this notion floating around of world models, which kind of go beyond just next token prediction and try to encode the laws of physics and different mechanical things and tasks, let's say intersecting with robotics and such as well, to develop like a more comprehensive like knowledge graph of the world and the world's knowledge, to basically perform like tasks that might be even more compound. That's the only sort of notion that I've heard, which may potentially be the next evolution after large language models. We're just not there yet, and the industry is moving so fast in terms of different tech stacks and things. And when I say moving fast, it's not necessarily that like they're always able to find value. Some of the stuff is also hype, but they're moving fast in terms of trying to like prototype and break things, try to come up with new software design patterns that then also get obsolete after a few years. Same thing happens with frameworks as well these days, like software frameworks with Gen AI applications these days. So it's very hard to say what's going to happen, but I would just focus on what might happen within the next 1 to 2 years and just try to keep yourself relatively updated with what's going on over there and trying to learn whatever latest skills people are trying. And that will also open up your mind to different kinds of design patterns and things. And gradually you'll be able to build different kinds of like mental models or patterns with the frameworks that you used before versus now, differences between those design patterns. And that's going to really evolve your like engineering thinking and your design thinking. And that's going to be very critical towards whatever new design pattern or framework comes out later on. Yeah, I see another question. What's your most important takeaway from working at Microsoft so far? Ooh, it's actually a non-technical takeaway. Basically, the takeaway I've had is a lot of what is important or what actually helps you drive results is the ability to make people motivated behind what you're trying to accomplish. It's the ability to convince people. When you're working at such a large tech company with a whole variety of teams, different teams, sister teams, or even teams in different orgs, a lot of what it comes down to is shared alignment towards business priorities and shared impact. And a lot of that comes down to how you communicate. How do you enter their world in terms of what they care about? And how do you, let's say, make them care about something that you want to drive? How do you negotiate with them, convince them, and kind of align on shared priorities and develop a shared understanding of impact? This is a very like soft skill sort of notion where sure, like AI agents are commoditized, we're able to push a lot of features. How do we prioritize what to work on next? How do we prioritize what's most important for our customers? And being able to articulate yourself clearly where people are able to understand you very well, having a way of talking about things passionately so that you motivate others to also like provide support to you in terms of driving certain amount of like features or deliverables. That I felt has been my most important takeaway in terms of what it takes to work with people. Handling disagreements from a place of empathy in terms of what they care about and trying to deal with disagreements and conflicts, not as a conflict, but as a dance of different ideas in terms of, hey, there are these different options instead of like conflicts. That, hey, option A says this, option B says this. These are the trade-offs, and let's bring this up for discussion, and let's try to like land on something that might be hybrid for now, or how do you try to iterate on things? How do you keep your iteration speeds up? How do you time box certain iteration loops, things like that. And so, yeah, really my most important takeaway was, yeah, how do you convince other people towards shared priorities and shared impact? Yeah, and that took me like a good amount of time to develop. Like it's been 5 years for me. I'm starting to see some benefits out of like kind of leading with intention in that way. Yeah, I think this will probably be like a continuous work in progress. Yeah. Also, I guess I can quickly mention that even developing these skills of convincing others towards shared impact, rallying a team around working on something together, a lot of these skills will be important basically in every job that you take, really, right? Because you'll most likely be working with other people. And so that is how things like internships and research projects and startups will help you kind of work with other people in that sense, which personal projects may not offer at that level. So yeah, feel free to DM me in Discord. And I don't know if you all have LinkedIn's at this point or not, but I can also link my socials in any announcements or whatever channel, and feel free to. Mhm. Awesome.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. It's been a great talk. Hope to see you guys later today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks everyone for joining. This was a lot of fun. I loved all the questions. How granular all these questions were, and yeah, looking forward to seeing all the stuff that you're building.
All right.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
See ya.